looking for me at work.
Uh-oh.
I'm at school.
I'm doing math. Leave me alone. So, homework 14, we're going to solve some longer equations yet.
Yes.
And so we have to be real careful on what we're doing because, you know, it's easy to make those mistakes with the signs and all of that. But our first step, get rid of the parentheses. That's always our first step on these. So we're going to use our distributive property. 3 times x would be 3x. 3 times minus 5 is minus 15. Bring down the minus 5. Equals, on the other side, negative times a negative. Negative 3 times negative 9 is positive 27x. Negative 3 times a positive 4. Minus negative 12. Minus 12, and then the minus 8x. So we've got rid of our parentheses. The second thing we said we're going to do is if there's more than 2 terms on the side, we want to combine our like terms. So on the first side, we can put our numbers together. In math, those are called constant terms because they don't have variables. And on the other side, we're going to put the terms with the variables together. So 3x, negative 15 minus 5 is minus 20. We're not changing any signs. We're just putting them together.
Oh, so we're not combining the two. I thought we were going to do 15, 5, and 12.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Over here, we're going to do 27 minus 8, which is 19x minus 12. So now it's to the point where we have to start moving things so that we can get the like things together, right? So now this is where the sign is going to change. I want my x's together, usually on the left side, my numbers together, usually to the right side. So I'm going to move this over here. Since it's a positive 19, we got to subtract the 19x. And then we have to move the number to the other side. Since it's a minus 20, we make it a plus 20. And then we do our work. 3 minus 19 would give me negative 16x. Negative 12 plus 20 would be positive 8. Our last step, dividing by that negative 16 that's in front of our x, and simplifying our fraction. We get a positive over a negative, so we know our fraction's negative. 8/16, there they come wandering in, would reduce down to 1/2. So x is equal to a negative 1/2. So could I move my 12 here? I could, but then I have to remember when I move my 12 that I have to add it when I move it over. So they have you combine the like terms where you don't change the signs first, then worry about moving them.
Did we go 13 and 14 or just 14?
Just 14. We did 13 last week.
Oh, yeah. Ouch!
Okay.
Got that all written down? All right, so now we're going to do the next one. First thing we're going to do is our distributive property. So we're going to do the left side first. Multiply that out. What are you going to get?
Negative 10u.
And 4 plus 4.
Plus 4. Negative times a negative is a positive 4. And then we just bring down that plus 6u. Equals. On the other side, we're going to bring down the 6. And then don't put your sign until you actually multiply because you want the sign of the answer. In this case, it's not going to change, but sometimes it does.
Negative plus 6.
Positive 6u and
Negative 16.
negative 16 when I multiply those by 2. Our next step, we said, combine the like terms that are on the same side. So I'm going to put my u's together on the left side, my numbers together on my right side, right?
Mm-hmm.
So negative 10 plus 6 would be?
Negative 4.
Negative 4u, and then just bring down my plus 4. On the other side, I like my variable first, so I'm going to put my 6u in front and then put my number on the end. 6 minus 16 is?
What?
6 minus 16 is negative 10. Now if you put negative 10 plus 6u, it's the same thing, but we like to get used to seeing things in the same order. Now, once I have it where I only have two terms on both sides, that's when I start to move stuff together. So I want my u's over here on the left, my numbers on the right. What should I do?
Minus 6u.
Minus the 6u
And minus the 4.
and minus the 4. So now I'm going to get
24. Positive? No.
I'm adding
Oh, yeah. Negative 10.
negative 10u equals
Negative 14.
negative 14. Right?
Right?
Negative 4 plus negative 6 is negative 10, and negative 10 plus negative 4 is negative 14. My last step,
Divide.
14 over 10.
divide by that negative 10 and simplify my fraction. A negative over a negative makes it a
Positive.
positive, and if I divide by 2, I would get
7/5.
7/5. So u equals positive 7/5. These are the longest ones you're going to have. So number 3 says solve for v. First thing I want to do, get rid of my parentheses using my distributive property, right?
Yep, yep.
Oops.
Did
Negative.
3 not go on there? It's on the back.
Oh, on the back. Okay.
I was trying to save some paper. So, negative 6 times 2v,
Negative 12.
negative 12v, negative 6 times a negative 9,
Plus 54.
plus 54. And then bring down the plus 3v. On the other side, 7 times v, 7v, and 7 times a positive 6,
42.
plus 42. So on this one, the left side has 3 terms, the right side only has 2 terms, so there's only going to be like terms to combine on the left side. We're going to combine our v's together. Negative 12v plus 3v is
Negative 9.
negative 9v plus 54 equals our 7v plus 42. From there, we would want to
Drop the 7 and make it a negative 7.
subtract our 7v and
And take our 54 and
minus the 54.
Okay.
So negative 9 minus 7 would be
Negative 16.
negative 16v equals 42 minus 54.
Negative 12.
Negative 12. And then our last step,
Divide.
divide by that negative 16. Again, we have a negative over a negative, so it is positive. And if I reduce that down, I can divide those by 4. 3/4. So v equals positive 3/4. Number 4, 5, and 6. Starting to get some longer equations that have fractions. You could do it where you would add your 5/6 and then divide by your 1/4, but most people have trouble with fractions. And so what they want you to start getting used to doing is getting rid of the fractions as your first step if you don't have parentheses. If I'm going to get rid of the fractions, I want to multiply each of those fractions by something that all of the denominators go into. So it's like finding your common denominator. If I have a 5, a 4, and a 3, those all divide evenly into
Oh, no.
nope. It's going to be 60 because 5, 4, and 3 don't have anything in common. 5 times 4 is 20, and 20 times 3 is 60. So I'm going to multiply them each by 60.
Multiply the fractions by 60.
Yep. We're we're actually going to multiply every term by 60, but all of them happen to be fractions. So what should happen is you should be able to cancel the denominator out into that number we multiplied by. 5 divides into 60 how many times? 12 times. So then I'm going to take 12 times the minus 6. That's on the top part of that fraction. 12 times 6 would be, so I get negative 72 there. Now it's the same thing would happen if you grabbed your calculator and put 60 times negative 6/5. If you do that, you should get a whole number, negative 72. Plus, 4 goes into 60 how many times? 15 times. 15 times 1u gives me 15u. Or if you took 1/4 times 60, you get 15. Equals. 3 goes into 60.
I'm still not getting how you got that negative 72.
Here's what we're doing. Technically,
60?
this. 60 over 1 times negative 6/5. If we found the right thing that we're multiplying by, we should be able to say 5 goes into here once and into here 12 times, right? Now we're just multiplying the 12 times the negative 6.
And that's where you got that.
That's where I got that. Then I did the next one. I took 60 over 1 times 1 over 4. Four went into here once and into here 15 times. And that's where I got that 15 from. So what we're doing over here is 60 over 1 times negative 5/3. But we know that this is going to cancel with this if we have the right number up there. So we said 3 goes into 60 20 times. And then I have to take 20 times that top number. 20 times negative 5 gives me negative 100, right? So we've gotten rid of all the fractions. Negative 72 plus 15u equals minus 100. Now we solve that like we solve our other equations. We want to solve it for u, so what should we do next? Plus the 72, right? We want to get that number over here with this other number. Since it's a minus 72 and we're moving it to the opposite side, we got to make it a plus 72. So 15u is going to equal a negative 100 plus 72. Negative 28. And then we're going to do what to solve that? Divide. And then we have to decide, can I simplify that or not? No, there's nothing that goes into 28 and 15, right? Other than they're going to put the negative in front. And so negative 28/15 is going to be my answer. So yeah, we're really doing this, but we're just taking a little shortcut because we know this should divide in here evenly, and then we take that number times whatever's on top.
Okay.
We'll try it on the next one. This one we have a 5, a 9, and a 3. So we won't have to take 5 times 9 times 3 because 3 goes into 9, right? So if we take 5 times 9, we get 45, and 3 divides into 45, right? So I'm going to multiply each of these by 45 so that I can do some canceling. So 5, going to cancel that out. It goes into 45 9 times, right? 9 times that minus 4 that was on top of that fraction would give me negative 36. Then we do the next fraction. 9 goes into 45 5 times. 5 times the top of that fraction. 5 times negative 7 would be negative 35, and that one had the u behind it, so negative 35u. Then we do 3 into 45.
$15.
15 times. So now we've got to do 15 times that 8 on the top of that fraction. It's going to have a minus in front of it. But 15 times 8, 120. Now notice when I multiplied by that common denominator, they're always positive values, so the signs in front shouldn't change. That one had a minus, this one has a minus in front, this one has a minus in front. So, we want to solve this for u. I want to get the u by itself. What should I move?
36.
What one should I probably move to get the u by itself?
Oh.
We're going to move the 120 because we don't have a u on this side. So normally we move the u's over here, but there's no u's there. That would just be extra work. So since there's only one u and it's on this side, we're going to move this over here. And yes, we are going to add it because it's a minus. So now you're going to do negative 36 plus 120. And if you need to use your calculator, use your calculator. We want you to understand the process. Not that it's not good to do the math in your head. 84 equals negative 35u. And in order to solve that for u, we would divide by which one?
35.
The negative 35, right? That's the one that's in front of the u. And then we have to see if we can reduce that down. I have a sneaky suspicion that maybe that one you can. Nope, doesn't work. How do you know? How can you check it? What?
7.
You could check 7. That's what I thought might work. I didn't check it, but 84 divided by 7. Oh, yes, it does work. I can divide by 7. So if I divide by 7, I'm going to get 12 over 5, right? Negative 12 fifths for u. But if you have a fraction calculator, if you put in 84 fraction negative 35, and then you get the mixed number, right? And you have to do shift in the fraction buttons. Right, 2 and 2 fifths. And then if you hit shift in the fraction button, it should show you negative 12 fifths. But if you put it in and you get that mixed number and you're not getting a 35 on the bottom, you know, oh, it did reduce. So we always have to check that because we always want them in simplest form. So, number 6. We have negative 4/3 plus 3/7 y equals negative 1/2. 3, 7, and 2 don't have anything in common, right? So we just end up having to multiply them all together. What do we get?
Multiply them all together?
Yep. $42. So 42 is going to be a number all three of those divide into. So go ahead, do that first step, see what you get for your numbers. So, you said 3 went into 42 how many times?
14.
14 times. So you took 14 times 4, which is
The negative is 56.
56, and the negative's in front, so we got negative 56 there, right? Then we said 7 went into 42 6 times. 6 times the 3 on top
18.
is a positive 18, and that one has the y behind it, so that y's got to stay there. Equals 2 went into 42, 21 times that minus 1, negative 21. So negative 56 plus 18y equals negative 21. If I want to solve that for y, then what do I need to move?
Bring down the 18y and move the negative 56.
We need to move the negative 56 and make it a positive 56. So we're going to plus the 56 over there. 18y is then going to equal negative 21 plus 56.
35.
35. And then we're going to divide by that 18. Let's see, 7 and 5, neither of those go into 18, so I'm going to say that one probably can't be reduced, right? Oh. And then it decides not to write.
Oh no!
Where'd that go? Darn board. See if I can get the marker right again.
Drop it. Oh, that's where I messed up. Okay.
Don't know why this doesn't like me some days. Let's try her again. There we go, we got the writing back. Draw with the, oh, it doesn't want to turn off. Yeah.
So y equals 35 over 18.
Yes. There, we got all that written down. All right, so number 7, same kind of thing we were doing before, just a little bit longer problem. What they want you to recognize is that when you have a whole number there, like negative 2y, that it's, oh, criminies.
Funny face up there.
Why did it want to write just a minute ago, and now it doesn't want to write again? Loading tools. Pen. I'm perplexed today on this one. Well, but you got me that far. I have negative 2 over 1 minus 1/3 equals 5/3 y minus 4/5. Again, we're going to get rid of the fractions as the first step, but we really don't have to worry about that 1, right? So we have 3's and we have 5's. Our least common multiple then would be 15. So I'm going to multiply every term times 15, including this whole number. So what we're thinking about here is that 1 goes into 15 15 times. 15 minus a 2y would be negative 30y. Right? We can't do any canceling because 1 goes into it the whole number of times. So 15 times negative 2y is just going to give us negative 30y. But with the fractions, that's where we're going to be able to cancel. 3 goes into 15 5 times. 5 times the one on top is 5, so we get minus 5 there. Equals. Again, 3 goes into 15 5 times. 5 times the 5 on top is a 25, and that one has the y behind it. And then on the last one, 5 goes into 15 3 times. 3 times that 4 is 12, and there's a minus in front of that, so minus 12. So we have negative 30y minus 5 equals 25y minus 12. Now we got to think about, oh, I'm solving my equations. I've got y's on both sides and numbers on both sides, so I have to start moving things around. So I want my y's together over here. I'm going to minus my 25y. I want my numbers over here. I'm going to plus my 5. So negative 30 minus 25, they're both negative, add and keep the sign. Negative 55y. On the other side, we have a negative 12 plus 5. My signs are opposite. I subtract and take the sign of the bigger one, so negative 7. And then, of course, my last step, dividing by my coefficient of negative 55. Now, in this case, I have a negative over a negative, so I know my answer is going to be negative over a negative is a positive. And then I don't think I can reduce that down. And so 7 over 55 is going to be my answer. Now, here's the test. If I can move the board and write on the next one. So, they didn't change the denominators much there. I've got 3's and 5's in the bottom of my fractions again. So I'm going to multiply everything times 15. So times 15, times 15, times 15, and even that whole number is going to get times 15, right? I have 4 terms is what they call them in my problem. So I'm going to multiply by 15 4 times. On the fractions, I should be able to cancel. 3 goes into 15. 5 times. 5 times my minus 4 gives me negative 20, and the y is behind that term, so negative 20y. 3 goes into 15. 5 times again. 5 times the 7 on top of that fraction, plus 35. Equals, on the other side, 5 goes into 15. 3 times my minus 1, minus 3, and there's a y behind that one, right? Minus 3y. On the last one, there's not a fraction. It's really over a 1. You can't cancel then, so you just have to multiply. Negative 4 times 15,
60.
minus 60. If you want to put it over 1, you could say 1 goes into 15 15 times, and guess what? I still have to take 15 times that minus 4. Now I've got 2 terms on both sides. I want my y's on one side and my numbers on the other side. So I'm going to start moving things. This is a minus 3y. I'm going to move it over, make it a plus 3y. This is a positive 35. I'm going to move it over and make it a minus 35. So negative 20y plus 3y would give me negative 17y, negative 60 minus 35, negative 95. And then to solve it for y, I would
95 over 17.
negative 95 over negative 17, but a negative over a negative makes it a positive. Can I reduce that down? The only thing that would work is if 17 divides evenly into 95. Nope. Okay, so that's going to be our answer, positive 95/17 then. All right, so number 9. looking at that one, what do you think you have to multiply each of the terms by?
10.
Exactly. We have 2's and 5's on the bottom. We're going to take everything times 10. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of time to do that first step to see if we can do that canceling and all that good stuff right. So on the first fraction, 5 went into 10, 2 times our 1w is 2w. On the next one, we didn't have a fraction, we just multiplied. Negative 3 times 10, negative 30, equals 2 went into 10, 5 times the minus 1w, negative 5w. And then 5 went into 10 twice. 2 times our minus 1 is negative 2. So 2w minus 30 equals negative 5w minus 2. Now we have to start moving things around. So what should we do next?
Plus 5w.
Plus the 5w
7. Oh,
and plus the 30. You can do it in 2 steps if you want. I like to save some space because I write big. So 7w is going to equal 28. Hey, this one's going to come out nice. Because when I divide by 7, what am I going to get? 4. So w equals 4. All right, so number 10, we're going to multiply by our common denominator in order to get rid of the fractions. In this case, we have a 2 and a 4. So we're going to multiply everything times 4. This is all one term. I'm going to take that times 4. This is one term. I'm taking that times 4. And the 23 I'm going to take times 4 since that's one term. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel. 2 goes into 4 2 times, and I'm going to multiply it by the top of that fraction, the 7x plus 4, equals, here, 4 goes into 4 1 time, so technically I'm taking 1 times the top of that fraction, 9x plus 16. Plus, on the end, I have to take the 23 times the 4, since there's not a fraction, I can't do any canceling, and I'm going to get 92 there. So using my distributive property, 2 times 7x would be 14x. 2 times 4 is plus 8 equals 1 times 9x is 9x. 1 times 16 is 16. And then I have that plus 92 on the end. The left-hand side only has 2 terms. We can't combine anything. But the right-hand side has 3 terms, which tells me I can put some stuff together. I'm going to add my numbers together. I'm not changing any signs because they're not moving to a different side of the equation. I'm just combining them. So 14x plus 8 is going to equal 9x plus, if I add those together, I'm going to get 108. 16 plus 92. Now I have one of those equations where I've got both a variable and a number on each side. Usually I like to move my variables to the left, my numbers to the right. So this is going to the opposite side. I'm going to subtract my 9x. This is going over to the opposite side. I'm going to subtract my 8. 14x minus 9x is 5x. 108 minus 8 would be 100. My last step, dividing by that coefficient of 5, so x is going to equal 20. On all of these ones, you should get a nice whole number answer. If it's coming out to a fraction answer, there's probably a mistake somewhere in the problem. Go back and check your work. So on this one, we just got x equal 20. All right, so the next one. We've got those fractions. We want to get rid of the fractions. We're going to multiply by 20. So I'm going to times 20 here, I'm going to times 20 here, and I'm going to times 20 on the end. I'm then going to do some canceling. So 5 goes into 20 4 times. So I'm going to take 4 times that 4x minus 2. Then I have this minus sign. 4 goes into 20 5 times. So I have minus 5 times x minus 8. So that sign in between came down, and then when I divided, I have my number there. And on the other side, 6 times 20 must be about 120, right? So on this one, we've got parentheses, 2 sets of parentheses that we have to get rid of. 4 times 4x would be 16x. 4 times minus 2 is minus 8. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Negative 5 times a negative 8 is a positive 40 to equal my 120. I've got 4 terms over on that left side. Tells me I can put some stuff together, right? I can put my x's together, I can put my numbers together. So 16 minus 5 would give me 11x.
Wouldn't that be adding if you drop it down?
I'm not moving it to the opposite side of the equation, I'm just combining. So it didn't come from this side over here where I had to change the signs, I'm just putting them together. That's where it gets confusing when you get these big long problems. Same thing here, I'm not going to change the signs, they're both on the same side, I'm just putting them together. Negative 8 plus 40 would be positive 32 to equal my 120. Now is when I'm going to change my signs, because I'm going to take the 32 from the left side, put it on the right side. That's when I have to do the opposite, because I'm moving it to the opposite side of my equation. So 11x is going to equal 120 minus 32. 88. Well, that answer sounds better. Because now when I divide by 11, x is going to equal 8. And that's what should happen. You should come up with a nice whole number answer. If you're not, there's a mistake somewhere in the problem. That's why I think she must have typed something wrong on that first one, because we didn't get a nice whole number answer and I couldn't find where we made any mistakes. Number 12. Same kind of thing, has all those fractions in it. First thing I want to do is get rid of the fractions, so I'm going to multiply by 8, exactly. Times 8, times 8 here, times 8 here. So 8 times 10 is 80. 80 is going to equal. Then I'm going to do my canceling. 8 goes into 8 once, so I have 1 times 3u minus 3.
I know, that's
Plus 4 goes into 8. 2. So 2 times 7u minus 1. So 80 is going to equal. When I take this times 1, not going to change much there, right? I still get 3u minus 3. Here I'm going to multiply by 2. So plus 14u minus 2. So again, on this one, the right side has a whole bunch of terms. I'm going to combine them. I'm not moving them. I'm just going to put them together. So 3u plus 14u would be 17u. Negative 3 minus 2, negative 5. Now I want to solve that for u. So if I want to get the u by itself, what should I do next?
Drop the 5.
So I'm going to add my 5 when I move it over to the other side, right? 85 equals 17u. And then I'm going to 85 over 17, and that should go in there evenly. Check her out. 85 over 17 reduces down to 5. And we should get that nice whole number answer on these ones anyway. All right. I think we had enough fun for one day since we had all those technical difficulties. Hopefully she will send me homework day 15, and I'm just going to add that to the beginning of 15. Because that was enough for one day.